Melissa to become a catastrophic major hurricane this weekend. Exactly how strong it will get and where it's going in today's video. Welcome in, folks. Happy Friday evening, October 24th. All eyes on what is currently Tropical Storm Melissa, but making a run at hurricane status already. And we'll get there by this weekend at the very latest, maybe even as early as overnight tonight. A lot to discuss with this storm. Unfortunately, catastrophic impacts becoming more likely for the country of Jamaica, as well as for portions of Cuba and Haiti, and then even the Bahamas, and potentially either maritime Canada or portions of the United States could be in line for this storm as well, further on down the road. So a lot to discuss and a lot to figure out here over hopefully what is the next 20 minutes or so of this video. Now, if you're new to the channel, though, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. That'll really help keep you informed and up to date as I continue to track this storm. And as soon as I get new data, I post these videos here for you so you can get that latest data and my analysis of it. All right, folks, let's dive right on into things and start talking about this storm system. Next to me is the latest run, brand new, hot off the press of our afternoon European model. And beginning to show what has been the thought process for a while now, but this storm is going to continue to strengthen, exploding into a major hurricane, and then likely either directly striking or making a very close pass to Jamaica, and then up through Cuba, the Bahamas, and potentially after that getting scooped up into maybe Canada, the United States, or right now what is more likely is out to sea, although not guaranteed that that is how things will unfold on down the road. But in the near term, we're feeling pretty confident about this storm system. Let's give you a very quick look under the hood, and then we'll really dive into the structure of the storm in a second. But you can already see a pretty well-defined tropical storm right now, very clearly spinning, is keeping convection going, wind shear relaxing, dry air moving out, and the storm now beginning to stack those low-level spin with that mid and upper-level spin, helping to really strengthen this storm system and looking a lot better today than it has before. And the hurricane hunters in there flying around right now and confirming that, which I'll show you that latest data here as well coming up in just a bit. But a well-defined tropical system becoming stronger and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Now, you put all this together. This is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. This is the experts. This green squiggly line that looks kind of weird and random does something kind of like this. This is the previous track of the storm. So you can see it's already been a bit of a nightmare to forecast. Has been wobbling around. That center has been moving a little bit as it tries to align itself, now becoming aligned and starting to pull northward very slowly before an expected turn off towards the west is expected by the time we get into portions of your Saturday. And then eventually after that, scooting south of Jamaica for the start of the weekend. But unfortunately, eventually that turn north is going to happen. Right now, the center of the cone does bring the direct core of what would be a major category 4 or 5 hurricane right into the western part of the island of Jamaica. Now, there is a chance still that this doesn't make direct landfall, but the entire island is in the cone. And the next up would be Cuba and then the Bahamas after that. So that's a quick look at the cone from the National Hurricane Center. Because that's obviously hurricane watches up for Jamaica. Those will be upgraded to warning soon. And then hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings up for the southwestern portions of Haiti. We cannot forget about the Dominican Republic as well, who will be seeing impacts from this storm. All right, that's a quick overview of things. Let's dive into the latest Hurricane Hunter data. Let's analyze the structure of the storm, and then we'll start taking a look at model data. While I'm recording this, like I said, Friday evening, we've got to the hurricane hunters currently flying through this storm and starting to find that the system is finally becoming better stacked and thus is strengthening. Earlier today was around 1,004, 1,005 millibars, now dropping below that 1,000 millibar threshold, getting into the 990s as the latest drop sonde is found. And the hurricane hunters also finding stronger winds up near about 60 knots or so. That means the storm is definitely beginning to strengthen, becoming better organized, and will continue that trend overnight. So just wanted to show you that. Hurricane hunters are out there doing their job. We're very grateful for them. And unfortunately, though, they are finding a stronger system currently. Let's go ahead and dive into the structure of this thing. Let's talk about the environmental conditions. We've been doing this every video. I think it's a helpful tool to kind of give you some of the background meteorology of what's going on. As we already saw with infrared, it's got this very well-defined banding. You can see these outer winds are starting to get picked up by the upper level jet stream, fanning this system out. And that is very well apparent as well. If we take a look at our upper level divergence, we've got a lot of it, especially on the eastern side of the storm. And that's where we see some of these upper level winds fanning out much more so you would expect. That's why it still looks a little lopsided, but still becoming better organized than maybe the storm was yesterday. Lower level convergence, we've got plenty of wind coming together here at the surface. Obviously, it's spinning. We've got plenty of vorticity. The storm is very much spinning out there right now. If we take a look to see if we have any microwave imagery, and it actually looks like we do, so this is a great tool to use. We'll go ahead and zoom into the storm a little bit more here and see if this microwave imagery still shows up. This one does. You can see we've got a lot of convection getting going. Now, what we still don't see is a very well-defined eye showing up on the microwave satellite data that we have. So that's good news. It's got some more time to go before it starts clearing an eye out and becomes more of those classic looking hurricanes. But all of this convection is definitely going to help to lower the pressure due to that release of latent heat from all of the rain falling in and around this storm. What about wind shear? This is why things are becoming better organized right now, folks. The wind shear is starting to calm down. Yesterday's video, we had these red contours over the storm, now yellow and green, helping it to really begin to strengthen as some of the strongest winds begin to lift up to the north. And that will remain a common theme over the next couple of days as upper level winds really begin to fan out around the system and help it further get its act together. And that's one of the big things that we'll notice once the storm starts to strengthen. In terms of dry air, not really a whole lot around the storm itself. We do have dry air up into the northwestern Caribbean towards the Gulf that's trying to work towards the system. Unfortunately, I think it's just going to be too little too late. The storm will already have a well-defined core by then, and it's going to be much tougher for that dry air to penetrate the storm, especially with wind shear decreasing, not really helping to break through that wall of plenty of moisture that it has around it right now. Other than that, folks, we can see if we have any AMSU data. It doesn't really look like it, and not that that would really matter, but you can see with these brighter colors and some of our other data, again, that indicating that we've got plenty of thunderstorm activity helping to lower that center low pressure, as we saw with the hurricane hunters and what they're finding. So all the data suggesting the storm becoming better organized and will continue to do so over the near future and even into the medium range, likely as the Caribbean continues to open up. Unfortunately, the big story is this. It's the ocean heat content, folks. I mean, there's just so much fuel under this system for it to pick up, and that's why the ceiling is so high here. This is the deepest, warmest water in the Atlantic, and that's exactly where Melissa is working over. All right, that's a look at the storm itself right now. Let's go ahead and dive into some model data now and track this thing out for you, show you how strong it's going to get, where it's going to go, and what the possibilities still are in terms of that track. We'll start with the European model, which I think is easily doing the best with this storm out of any of our current model data, and we'll just time it out for you. So here we go. This is by tomorrow morning, Saturday. You can see the system continuing to strengthen and dropping the millibars a little lopsided. You can see more of the convection there on the eastern side of the storm than the western, but becoming better organized and strengthening as it starts to move just south of the island of Jamaica. Now, by the time we get later into Saturday into Sunday, the outer rain bands of this are really going to begin to lash Jamaica, and it will already have begun doing that by tonight and tomorrow for sections of extreme southwestern Haiti. The storm continuing to strengthen, taking advantage of that very warm water down to major hurricane status here by Sunday afternoon. It continues west, but by early Monday and into Tuesday, the storm begins to stall a little bit, still just lashing Jamaica with its outer bands, and then pulls north. The latest European run takes the center of this storm right over the island, and as a major catastrophic hurricane. This would bring a big storm surge, big wind, flooding rainfall. This would bring it all, folks. This would be a worst case scenario, unfortunately, is what the European is showing. Then crosses and hits Cuba again as still a major catastrophic storm, and then crosses into the southern Bahamas by what would be Wednesday and Thursday, and then pulls north. I'll show you another model, the Euro AI. I'm not going to go as in depth on this one because honestly, it's kind of showing the same thing. You can see the storm strengthening, moving south of Jamaica, a little bit further south than the European. Stalls, pulls north. This one just clips the western tip of the island as a major hurricane, barely making landfall, like I said, on the extreme western tip there. Then pulls north, hits Cuba as a hurricane, and then into the Bahamas and pulling north from there. I'll show you what it does after that later on in the video for my folks in the United States and eastern and maritime Canada as well, where the storm could impact us, Not guaranteed, but we'll talk about that here in a second. I question whether it was even going to show up, but just to say I did, I'll show you the GFS. The GFS has been atrocious on this storm, folks. I don't know what its problem has been all year. It's just been really bad, and this storm was no different. It showed a landfall into Hispaniola for a very long time. All the other models started going with what is now the forecast of Jamaica and Cuba. The GFS finally trying to catch up and still not fully doing it, showing a landfall right into the island over the next couple of days, and then pulls north into Cuba and the Bahamas. So the GFS still an outlier, playing catch up, and just overall not doing very good with this storm whatsoever. Those are the global models. Let me show you some hurricane model data. It's a lot more high resolution, and it'll really show you more in depth for my friends down here into the Caribbean of what this storm could look like. And they also do a little bit better generally with the strength of the storm. So let me show you how strong they have this one getting. We'll start here with the HWRF model. This is one of our hurricane models. Does a lot more high resolution look at the storm, and we'll time it out for you. Initializing pretty well here. It has the storm right around 995 at initialization, or at least at what it expected it to be at this hour, and that's about right for what the storm currently is. Continues strengthening it, continues moving north. We get rapid intensification overnight. You're waking up and you've got a strong Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane just south of Jamaica. Here's the island. Here's the country of Jamaica circled there. So obviously watch that. That's where the land is. The storm stays just south for a while, but then by the time we get to overnight Saturday and into Sunday, the core of the storm starts to work in. Heavy rainfall, hurricane force winds, strong storm surge. I mean, really all the things you could think of with a major hurricane just off the southern shoreline start to work into the island. Now, obviously, that's a big deal. That's a problem that could bring catastrophic impacts. The good news is Jamaica obviously is a Caribbean country. They are no stranger to hurricanes, and they are definitely a people that are built for it. We'll put it that way. But unfortunately, still, this would be about a worst case scenario for the island as the storm works in. Moves very slow, crawling along the southern shoreline during the afternoon and overnight of Saturday, and then you're waking up Sunday morning. It's along the western tip, still a major hurricane. This would probably be about a Category 3 or 4, pulls north, continues battering the island, and then crosses, continues to strengthen by overnight Sunday into early Monday, and then continues and gets a second landfall, even stronger than it was near Jamaica, working into Cuba as a powerful, likely Category 4 hurricane with this sort of intensity and look, just a bowling ball looking storm, and works in. This would be overnight Monday into Tuesday, and then crosses and then eventually into the Bahamas, still as a major hurricane. I mean, that's a real deal, folks. And unfortunately, the path is one that Jamaica will not be the only country that gets hit hard here. I mean, that would be big impacts for Cuba. That would be big impacts for the central and southern Bahamas. Obviously, we're getting out of rain bands already in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. This is a big one, folks. This is not one that you just kind of write off. I know it's late October. We don't want to talk about it, but that's the real deal what that model is showing. Here's the HAFSA model. It's another hurricane model I'll show you. And pretty similar. Continues strengthening this thing, gets it stronger sooner. Here we go tomorrow afternoon, about 24 hours from now, a little less than that now, I reckon. 959 millibars, major hurricane just offshore, lashing southwestern Haiti with outer rain bands, gusty winds, heavy, excessive rainfall with flash flooding potential, which we've already seen some of into the Dominican Republic and Haiti along the southern coastlines of those countries. You keep it going. Here you go, overnight Saturday, and you're waking up Sunday in Jamaica. A powerful, major, just buzzsaw of a hurricane just off your southern shoreline, and continuing to rotate in these rain bands from the southeast to the northwest throughout the day on Sunday. Again, major hurricane status. Look how strong this model gets it down to 920. That's probably a Category 5 at that point. This would be overnight Sunday into early Monday. Continues pulling north. The strongest hurricane of the year, potentially down into the 910s for a millibar reading here for Monday morning just south, then pulls north as a 900 millibar or so storm, almost 900 single digits here. Just a buzzsaw. This would bring catastrophic storm surge to the southern bit of the island. Now, the good news, it gets mountainous pretty quick here in Jamaica, so you don't have to go far to get above where the storm surge would work in. But either way, devastating storm surge, heavy rainfall, big time wind if this is the case. If it moves right into the island like this as a major hurricane overnight Monday into Tuesday, I mean, just catastrophic winds, weakens a little bit due to terrain, and then hits Cuba still as a major hurricane, and into the Bahamas still as a major hurricane as well. So those are two of our more reliable hurricane models showing this thing rapidly intensifying, getting right along the southern shoreline of Jamaica, and then working right across the island or along the western edge of the island, and both showing a big-time storm with big-time impacts, one that, you'd probably remember for a while if you live in the island. All right, those are the hurricane models. Let's dive into the actual impacts now. Let's talk about rainfall totals. Let's talk about wind gusts, and then talk about some of the other path potential. And then we'll talk about our friends here in the United States and Canada and what could happen further on down the road. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the European model's got a pretty good handle on this storm, so I'll show you its projected rainfall, and you can see very high numbers. Now, this is in millimeters, so this is not in inches or centimeters or whatever else you might think. This is millimeters, but obviously these are just insane numbers here along Jamaica. The latest afternoon run showing 500 or so millimeters of rain. That's a foot to 2 feet of rainfall, folks. The same thing into southern Haiti. Like I said, do not sleep on this storm if you're into the southwestern section of Haiti, even the southern coastline of the Dominican Republic there. Heavy rainfall potential for catastrophic flash flooding, but obviously Jamaica getting the worst of it as the core of the storm looks to work either right over the island, like I said, or maybe just to the west of the island. Eventually, then Cuba would be in line, and the Bahamas as well. Notice the totals start to drop off a little bit that way. The main reason for that is the storm picks up in speed. You'll see why here in a second whenever we talk about the United States and Canada, but a trough going to come down, pick it up, and really start to slingshot it out of here once it passes Jamaica, but not before obviously dropping insane amounts of rainfall. So if you live in a floodplain, I'd go ahead and just get out now. I'd find somewhere safer. Obviously, your local officials will know more about what the evacuation areas are and things like that. But that is something to definitely take in mind here. Flooding will be one of the biggest stories with Melissa, although obviously the wind will be as well. And if we take a look at the potential wind, this is the European max wind gust forecast. So this is the worst it would get in terms of just a little quick second wind gusts. And even this is probably overdone a little bit, but I'll show it to you nonetheless. This is in kilometers per hour, so not miles per hour or meters per second, kilometers per hour is going to be the units that we're using here. Already pretty breezy into Jamaica and southwestern Haiti, but the worst of it really starts to pick up right into here. This would be overnight Monday into Tuesday as the storm pulls north and the core gets near the island. Wind gusts starting to get near 130, 150 kilometers per hour. If the core of the storm works right over the island, and this is a major category 4 or 5, as is expected right now, we could be talking about wind gusts up near 200 plus kilometers per hour. Like I said, some of these higher numbers probably overdone a little bit, but easily gusts at 200 plus kilometers per hour would not be out of the question with a storm like this working right over the island. And then Cuba, yeah, hold on, you're next. 150 plus mile an hour wind gusts not out of the question for the southeastern section of the island of Cuba here and of the nation. And then into the southern and central Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, the islands just north of there. Also wind gusts of 150 plus kilometers per hour, especially for you folks there. There's not as much terrain to slow it down. You're basically just little flat islands there in the Bahamas, so you could feel it even worse than some of the other countries that have a little bit more terrain to shelter them at least a little bit. Although we also know the higher up you go, if you're a mountain nation, sometimes the winds don't have anything before you as well, because it's just coming straight from the atmosphere into the side of the mountain. So some places as well can get it pretty bad in that sense. Then the storm pulling north by the middle of this coming week. All right, those are the two big impacts out of this. When storm surge as well, it could be a very big deal here for some of these islands. Do not sleep on that. Unfortunately, there's not a National Hurricane Center graphic for that, so I don't have one to show you, but just know, I would not be surprised. 10 to 20 feet of surge seems like a pretty safe bet to come by where the core of the storm goes, and on the right-hand side of it where you're getting that very strong onshore flow. Obviously, exactly where that is, you don't really know until the storm starts pulling north. Speaking of that turn north, though, let's talk about when it could be. Let me show you some model data on that, and then talk about the potential the storm has to potentially impact the United States or maritime Canada. Brand new data here coming in. This is the afternoon European ensemble members. This shows basically all the possibilities left for where this storm could track, and it ranges anywhere from the eastern shoreline of Jamaica to just offshore of the island. Unfortunately, though, I mean, folks, about 80% of them move it right into the island right now. Personally, I still think the western side of the island is more likely than anything else. Some models have shifted a little bit further east. I still think, like I said, the western tip, or at least the western half of the country, is the most likely to get a direct landfall. There's still a shot that maybe it doesn't move directly into the island, but that's becoming less likely the closer we get to potential direct impacts. And then up after that would be, like I've mentioned earlier, the extreme southeastern section of Cuba, and then into the south central Bahamas after that. For all these places, it's going to be a major hurricane, it looks like right now. It's going to really start to pick up speed. Notice how it's all clustered here in the near term as it's kind of crawling, and then all of these members start to fly off to the north and east. That's the European ensemble members. Here's the AI model. I mean, folks, same thing. 80 to 90% of them bring this right into the island of Jamaica. This really could not turn north at a worse time for the island. Notice how all of the colors are pink. Basically, every member of our AI guidance suggesting this will be a powerful, major hurricane. Category 3 plus, Category 4 and 5 are very likely for Category 4, I'd say, and very possible for Category 5 upon landfall to the island nation. As we've talked about, just so much heat here in terms of the waters to take advantage of. There's a reason we have all of these resorts in Jamaica and things like that. It's because the water is beautiful and warm, and unfortunately, Mother Nature taking advantage of it to produce this very powerful hurricane. You can see, though, the potential possibilities there with that. And just to say I did, let me show you the GFS, right? Yeah, GFS doing typical GFS things and having a wider spread, but still nonetheless agreeing with much of the other data. All right, final thing we'll talk about. Let me zoom this out. Let's talk about after the Caribbean. Where could Melissa end up? Does it try to curve back inland, or does it move out to sea? Well, let me show you the upper level pattern and the possibilities ahead. All right, here we are. This is Monday afternoon and morning, so kind of in between that time frame. Here is Melissa. Pretty easy to see this little blue blob down here just south of Jamaica. Obviously, it's what we just spent the past 15 or 20 minutes talking about. It's what's after that we still need to pay attention to. This is our 500 millibar height anomaly map. The blue colors are areas of low pressure. The red and orange colors are areas of high pressure and ridging. And this is going to help to figure out the steering of what's next. Now, this is what looks to occur early next week. A big trough, a big area of blue dives into the southeast. Looks like it's going to set up a very chilly weekend and especially chilly start and middle part of next week into the southeastern U.S. We're going to get a storm system. We're going to get rainfall. And this is going to be what picks up Melissa. Notice how it comes down and kind of almost like a magnet kind of shoots it up north. And then it's right into here we need to watch. How do the two interact? We know the trough's going to pick Melissa up and pull it north from the Caribbean and into the Atlantic again. Then the question becomes, though, does it try to absorb it or does it just keep pushing it out to sea? The latest European today grabs it and tries to pull it up north into maritime Canada, as you can see here with this upper level pattern. I'll even show you the surface map and you can kind of see how it unfolds there. Right here, watch the trough come down, scoops up Melissa right here early next week, pulls it north, and then tries to slingshot it further north and even kind of northwest at a point here and gets it awfully close to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland as a powerful low pressure, and even on its own gets a big storm into the eastern U.S. by the middle part of next week and not far from Halloween. So that's the question. Does it completely scoop it and bring it in or scoop it and bring it out? Well, if we take a look at some other data here, if you look at the European ensembles, you start to see the spread here later on. You've got probably about 20 or 30% of the members that pull it up into the Northeast or maritime Canada, 20 to 30% of members that get close but not quite there, and then another third or so that bring it further out to sea. All possibilities still on the table. If we take a look at some of the other data, here's the GFS ensembles. I know it's a little bit more clustered, but about the same thing. You've got some members that pull it inland. You've got some that pull it out to sea. Final thing I'll show you for the day is the AI models. And yeah, same thing. Notice how we've got a very clear path to start, and then at the end, it diverges with two distinct possibilities. You've got one cluster that brings us right up into Maine or Nova Scotia, and then most members, not all of them, but most of them, try to keep this thing offshore. And that'll be the big thing we have to figure out over the coming days as we continue to track this system. I will mention the trough that we are tracking for what it will do eventually currently is still over the Northwest Pacific. It's moving into the PNW today, so I think the next 24 to 48 hours, our weather balloon data and all of our data collection techniques will start to collect more info on that, and we should get a better idea by the end of this weekend and into the start of next week. All right, folks, that's all I've got for you on this Friday evening. Obviously, Melissa, the big story. I know I haven't talked a lot about United States weather, but trying to keep our folks down here into the Caribbean safe as we continue to monitor this, what again could be a catastrophic storm system. All right, y'all have a great one to stay safe, especially if you're down there in the Caribbean. All eyes to the sky, and I'll see you all next time.